and Manasseh. Rachel died in the land of Canaan, and we were still on the way some distance from Ephraim or Bethlehem. Um, so with great sorrow, I buried her there beside the road of Ephrath. So then Jacob looked on the two boys, and he said, "These are your sons." And Joseph said, "These are the sons God has given me here in Egypt." And he said, "Bring them closer to me so I can bless them," because he could hardly see. He's half blind at this age. And so he brought them closer, and he kissed them and embraced them. And then he said to Joseph, "I never thought I would see your face again, but now God has even shown me my grandchildren, your children too." So he's very happy. Joseph moved the boys in who were at their grandfather's feet, and he positioned them in front of Jacob to receive this blessing. With his right hand, he directed Ephraim's hand towards the left hand, and the right hand towards Manasseh, because the right hand is what gives the blessing to the firstborn first, and then this one is the second, because his dad can barely see. And then he blesses. All right, wait a minute. But then Jacob crossed his hands. This is a big deal. He reached out his hands, and he switches his hands, and he puts his right hand on Ephraim, and then he puts his left hand on Manasseh, the firstborn. One gonna get the first blessing. Right hand gets first blessing, left hand gets second. Then he blessed Joseph and said, "May the God before whom my grandfather Abraham and my father Isaac walked, the God who is my shepherd all my life to this very day." This is an interesting line. "The angel who has redeemed me from all harm, may he bless these boys." Some cults believe that God is an angel. God is not an angel, and this verse, I would say, that's worth researching. God may have his own angels. Maybe he even has a specific one for him before he comes forth. I don't know. I don't think we can totally understand. We've got some implications from some of the things of the archangels that are mentioned by name. We don't know if that's all. There's some other reason to believe that they're archangels from other things in the Bible. But it says, "The angel who has redeemed me from all harm, may he bless these boys." Some people say, "Well, that's because Jesus, he's an angel." It's like, no, Jesus is not an angel. The angels make a very clear statement to bow down before Jesus. He is God. He's the Son of God. If you want to look at that, go look at Hebrews chapter 1, and you will see God is very clear to call his Son God, and he tells the angels that they submit to him. So no, I'm not sure that he wasn't just saying he is a supernatural being, and angel got applied to that interpretation, that he is an angel because he did this for me. But God is not an angel. God is over all the angels. Does he have wings? Well, we have one scripture that says that we get under his wing, that we are protected under his wing. Can God have wings? He can have whatever he wants, but we know he isn't in the physical like we understand it, so that must have been, what's it called? Not an allegory. What's it called? I can't think of the word, but it's a descriptor. But that doesn't mean that he actually has wings. He may, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. Because we're told that God is not in the flesh like Jesus was in the flesh. He is not a being in the way that angels are a being. It says that he is spirit, and he must be worshipped in spirit and truth. Our spirit has to worship him. So it's just interesting. But anyway, we're going to keep going. "May they preserve my name and the names of Abraham and Isaac, and may their descendants multiply greatly throughout the earth." But Joseph was so upset when he saw that his father placed that right hand on Ephraim's head. Joseph lifted it to move it from Ephraim's hand into Manasseh's hand, and he says, "No, father, this is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his hand." But his father refused. He says, "I know, my son, I know." Manasseh will also become great people, but his younger brother will become even greater. I'm like, they're setting it up again for jealousy. The descendants will become a multitude of nations. So both of them are going to get nations. But I'm making this decision. This guy is going to be firstborn. This guy with the first blessing. He keeps going. He says, but his father refused. And so Jacob blessed the boys that day on the blessing. The people of Israel will use your names when they give a blessing, and they will say, "May God make you as prosperous as Ephraim and Manasseh." He put Ephraim first. That's the blessing. In this way, Jacob put Ephraim ahead of Manasseh. Then Jacob said to Joseph, "Look, I'm about to die, but God will be with you and will take you back to Canaan, the land of your ancestors. And beyond what I have given you, or brothers, I am giving you an extra portion of the land that I took from the Amorites with my sword and bow. Remember that story. Now we're into chapter 49. Y'all, that must have been tough for Joseph to see that and say, why did you do that? It's not answered here. Then Joseph called together all his sons and said, gather around me. I will tell you what will happen with each of you in the days to come. So Jacob is dying, and he's telling all his sons what's going to happen. Y'all, it's not a pretty picture. Here's an example. He says, come and listen to you sons, listen to your father Israel. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my strength, my child, my vigorous youth. You are first in rank and first in power, but you're as unruly as a flood, and you will know, and you will be first no longer. By the way, you went to bed with my wife, and you defied the marriage couch. It's like, wait, so you just took his firstborn right away. Simeon and Levi, you're two of a kind. Their weapons are instruments of violence. May I never join in their meetings, and may I never be a party to their plans. For in their anger they murdered men, and they crippled oxen just for sport. A curse on their anger, for it is fierce. A curse on their wrath, for it is cruel. And I will scatter them among the descendants of Jacob, and I will disperse them throughout Israel. It's like, this is not a good time with Dad. Judah, your brothers will praise you. You will grasp your enemies by the neck, and all your relatives will bow before you. Judah, my son, is a young lion that has finished eating its prey. Lie down, lion. He crouches, he lies down like a lioness who dares arouse him. The scepter will not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from his descendants, until the coming of the one to whom it belongs. But this is a clear foreshadowing of the Messiah being implied here. And we also find out that Jesus is from the tribe of Judah. And he says, the one whom all nations will honor. That's in verse 10. And then he goes on to describe him. Then in verse 13 it says, Zebulun will settle by the seashore and will harbor for ships. His borders will extend to Sidon. Okay, he's going to be fisherman, merchant, fisherman. Issachar is a sturdy donkey, resting between his two saddle packs. He will see how good the countryside is and how pleasant the land is. He will bend his shoulder to the load and submit himself to hard labor. He's going to be a man of the land. Dan will govern his people like any other tribe in Israel. Dan will be a snake. Governor who's a snake beside the road, a poisonous viper along the path that bites the horse's hooves so the rider is thrown off. I trust in you for salvation, O Lord. So he's saying he's not trusting in himself, but he's trusting in the Lord. He's trusting in him for salvation. This is Dan. Gad will be attacked by marauding bandits, but he will attack them back when they retreat. Asher will dine on rich foods and produce food rich for a king. Fit for a king. Naphtali is a doe set free that bears fruitful fawns. Naphtali is a guy. So it's like, what? You're not a doe. That's a buck. So it's confusing. Yeah. That's right? Yeah. All right. Joseph is a foal of a wild donkey. Joseph just was that. Okay. Archers attacked him savagely. They shot at him and harassed him, but his bow remained taut, and his arms were strengthened by the hands of the mighty one of Jacob, by the shepherd, by the rock of Israel. May the God of your father help you and bless you. Blessings from heavens, blessings from the water's depths, blessings from the breast of the womb. May my father's blessings on you surpass the blessing of my ancestors, reaching to the heights of the eternal hills. May the blessings rest on the head of Joseph, who is prince of all his brothers. So that's how he's, when he says the archers attacked him savagely and they shot at him and harassed him, but he was saved. It's kind of like telling the past of what happened. Benjamin is a ravenous wolf, devouring his enemies in the morning and dividing his plunder in the evening. That's the little baby son. But he's telling him, this is what you guys are. Not saying it's good or bad, it's what it is. So these are the 12 tribes of Israel. And this is what their father said as he told his sons goodbye. He blessed each one of them with an appropriate message. So Jacob's death and burial, he says, soon I'll die. Enjoy my ancestors. Bury me with my father and grandfather in the cave of the field of Ephron the Hittite. This is the cave. The field of Machpelah near Mamre in Canaan, that Abraham bought from Ephron the Hittite as a permanent burial site, where Sarah and Rebekah and Leah and Abraham are all there. Only Rachel's not, because he couldn't get her back there. I always wonder why they just didn't dig her up and take her with her, but I don't know. So he breathed his last and he joined his ancestors in death. Wow, what an ending. Okay, chapter 50 in the end of Genesis. Joseph threw himself on his father and wept bitterly. The embalming process took 40 days, and the Egyptians mourned the deaths for 70 days in honor, I guess. When it was over, he says he goes to the Pharaoh advisors, and he says, "Please let me go bury my father. I made a promise to him." And so the Pharaoh says, you made a promise to your father, and you can go, and I will have my officials go with you. And they arrived at the threshing floor of Atad near the Jordan River, where they had a very solemn memorial service, and it was a 7-day period of mourning, so a week. The local residents, the Canaanites, watched them mourning, and they said, "This is a deep place of mourning for these Egyptians." And down in verse 17 it says, after burying Jacob, they returned to Egypt with the brothers, and all accompanied him to the Pharaoh, who had all accompanied him to the father's burial. Now that he's dead, Joseph's brothers were concerned that